Kaiju, giant monsters, strange beasts. Throughout all of our history, these creatures of legend have ravaged humanity. Some have brought doom to us, others have saved our kind. And today, I would like to highlight one of the thousands of kaiju from our popular culture, going over who they are, their story, their real-life history, and more. I am your host, Minecraft World, and this is Let's Talk Kaiju. Episode 4, Nemesis. Spoiler warning. You have been warned. The year was 2012. The kaiju genre was just about to break out of its dark years as many anticipated the upcoming releases of Godzilla and Pacific Rim. But the well was very much still dry in terms of kaiju media. That is until Jeremy Robinson stepped onto the scene. Fresh off of his previous book, Ragnarok, Robinson had been developing another new story. Inspired by reruns of classic kaiju movies like Godzilla and Gamera, Robinson had wondered why kaiju haven't been depicted much in literary media, and as such, he wanted to take a crack at it. And so, he wrote, imagining his world, and with the design expertise of Matt Frank, most well known for illustrating several of the Godzilla and Transformers comics from IDW, among others, he imagined a monster descended from both the earth and the stars, and born from bloodshed on a human and extraterrestrial scale. A titan that hungers for vengeance. And on November 15th, 2012, Robinson published his book, which he dubbed Project Nemesis. Following the discovery of a gigantic fossil in Alaska, John Hudson, director of the United States Government Department of Homeland Security Fusion Center Paranormal, or DHS-FCP for short, stumbles upon a conspiracy led by the former military general Lance Gordon. This conspiracy ultimately leads to the creation of a giant monster, dubbed Nemesis, which quickly escapes and proceeds to rampage through the northeast United States. And, as more people are caught in the crossfire, dark secrets are revealed, including a disturbing connection between Nemesis and Mygo, a young girl who was murdered 5 years before. Now, it's up to John and the rest of DHS-FCP to stop Nemesis from reaching Boston before her vengeance sets the city ablaze. Project Nemesis, to those who read it, was absolutely showered with praise, considered a unique yet loving story amongst the kaiju fan base. The book was given praise mainly for its sheer dedication to getting the kaiju experience right, showcasing the scale of the monster in a written format, as well as how generally unique the story is, despite, at a first glance, not really being such. As well as that, much praise was given to the title Kaiju. Nemesis, named after the Greco-Roman goddess of divine retribution/vengeance, obviously draws a lot of cues from Godzilla, but also Biollante, one of Godzilla's lesser talked about foes, mainly with her bright orange membranes and her origin, as well as the monster from 2008's Cloverfield, mainly in aspects of her behavior and character, giving her a more sympathetic nature. And with that, Robinson continued his writing, and further on he continued to develop the Nemesis saga and the Kaiju itself. In 2013, he released Island 731, a prequel which served as setup for the next two books, following the story of Mark Hawkins and his crew after being caught in a storm, having to navigate through a mysterious island filled with bizarre and unnatural creatures. And immediately afterwards, he dropped the highly anticipated Project MyGo, which was a direct continuation of Project Nemesis, following DHS FCP meeting up with Mark and his family as they, with the help of Nemesis, deal with a power-hungry and very much inhuman General Lance Gordon, who is now in control of 5 different kaiju: Skryon, Drakon, Scylla, Typhon, and Karkinos. Afterwards, Robinson would take a short break from the Nemesis saga, but later returned with Project 731 in 2014. This book served as a prequel to both Project MyGo and Island 731, pitting DHS FCP and Nemesis against GOD and their monstrous experiments, most dangerous of which are the Tsuchi, spider-like creatures that steal DNA via reproduction, xenomorph style. But when the creatures spawn a Mega Tsuchi from Nemesis, it's up to DHS FCP to destroy the Tsuchi and stop them and Nemesis from causing any more collateral damage. At this point, Robinson had intended to close out the Nemesis saga. However, as progression continued on Project 731, he decided against it, feeling he would close out the story in a different and far more grand way. And so, he revised Project 731 and later began work on his next book. Project Hyperion would be the setup for the finale, introducing Hyperion, a giant robot built by the Ferox, an extra-dimensional alien race, in order to stop Nemesis Prime, the ancestor of Nemesis, sent to Earth by the Eros, whom the Ferox were at war with. Following the arrival of 2 Eros kaiju, later dubbed Lovecraft and Giger, DHS FCP must awaken Hyperion and get him and a vengeful Nemesis to get along in order to stop these kaiju, now knowing full well that war is on the horizon. Throughout the creation of the Nemesis saga, Robinson had been developing a wider extended universe, and in 2016, that would come to a head with the final book of the Nemesis saga, Project Legion. This endgame-level series finale brought together every single one of the extended series, including the likes of the Chess Team series, Mirror World, Raising the Pass, and the Antarctos saga, as DHS FCP gathers allies across the dimensions, joining forces with man, monster, machine, and everything in between for an all-out extra-dimensional war against the Eros. Project Legion brought together everything set up by the previous books, taking Nemesis and DHS FCP in a far wilder and far more grand direction than could have been imagined, while still retaining the same energy as the previous books. The Nemesis saga in general was, and still is, widely well received by those who read it, being well loved for very similar reasons as Project Nemesis, but also taking the character in unique yet still natural feeling directions, as well as perfectly capturing the essence of the classic kaiju films onto the page. Following Project Legion, Robinson would, in a way, take a break from all things Nemesis, as the character had finally found happiness living on the moon of Europa. However, he wasn't done with writing. During and following the Nemesis saga, Robinson would try multiple different stories, some of the most notable ones being the Hunger Trilogy, which is a post-apocalyptic story about a botched attempt at solving world hunger causing gigantic, mutated animals to ravage the planet, Tether, a story about a man trying to figure out what happened to his wife and stopping an onslaught of ghost kaiju, and revisiting the concept of the connected universe with the infinite timeline. If you wish to support Jeremy Robinson and his work, there's a link to his website, World of Monsters, as well as a link to buy Project Nemesis in the description. This episode is not sponsored by him, I'm just a fan who wishes to spread the word about an independent author. However, Robinson was not quite done yet with the Goddess of Vengeance. Shortly following the release of Project Nemesis, a collaboration was made to feature Nemesis in the upcoming kaiju game Colossal Kaiju Combat. However, that didn't come to However, that didn't come to fruition due to many complicated issues. But that didn't stop Robinson from wanting to adapt Nemesis. A few years after Project Nemesis, the book would get a graphic novel illustration published by the American Gothic Press and illustrated by Matt Frank, the designer of Nemesis. A comic adaptation of Island 731 was also attempted, but that didn't come to fruition. Later, in 2022, it was announced that Project Nemesis was to be getting a TV show adaptation from Sony Pictures Television, the same studio behind The Boys, and directed by Chad Stahelski, director of the John Wick movies. And with that, Nemesis was back in the eye, and Robinson had been building something else with her. In March of 2023, Robinson premiered a dedicated song to Nemesis dubbed Nemesis, Wages of Sin, acting in a similar vein to that of the Blue Oyster Cult's Godzilla song. And that let people know that something was up. And later, following an announcement, Robinson would debut Nemesis, an alternate universe take on Project Nemesis. 13 years following the destruction of Boston at the hands of Nemesis, Agent Spider Graham, a high agent of the NSO, joins forces with the recently graduated Mygo Tilly and other assorted characters in order to stop an enigmatic, Nemesis-worshipping cult dubbed Divine Retribution. However, with their discoveries relating to the cult, they realize that the life of Nemesis and the world as a whole is in danger, and it's up to them to join forces with the Kaiju and stop Divine Retribution before it's too late. Nemesis was very well received to those who read it, recapturing what made Project Nemesis as beloved as it was, but also reinventing Nemesis in a similar way to the different variations of Godzilla. It took the core aspects of the original books, but changed other aspects, most notably the setting and timeline, telling a story that keeps the spirit of the original Nemesis saga, but also allowing itself to stand on its own. And with that, Robinson's work continues to this very day, with his recently released Point Nemo. But it's very clear that the Goddess of Vengeance has not quite yet left his mind. She's just resting at the bottom of the ocean, waiting for anyone to call her name. I have been your host, Minecraft World, and this has been Let's Talk Kaiju. Next time we look at the Beast of the Atlantic, Titanicus.